People keep talking about chosen ones, like it's some cosmic lottery. Like the universe handpicked a handful of TikTok influencers to be the future saviors of mankind. Let me give you the truth. The real truth. The one that existed long before YouTube, and long before the modern self-help circus. There are no chosen ones. Not in the way people think. What people call chosen is really just those who wake up sooner, those who feel the pressure earlier, those who see the collapse before the rest, those who refuse to be hypnotized by comfort and distraction. Being chosen doesn't mean you're special. It means you're burdened. It doesn't mean you're gifted. It means you're responsible. And it definitely doesn't mean life is going to rescue you. Most chosen ones in ancient stories were destroyed by the very people they tried to help. So, why does the modern world love the concept? Because it flatters the ego. Because it sells content. Because it makes people feel important without doing any of the inner work. But in reality, the ones people call chosen today are just early responders to a spiritual emergency. They're not promised safety. They're not guaranteed victory. They're simply the first to sense that something is wrong, and the first to be hated for saying it. Real chosen ones don't brag about being chosen. They don't hashtag it. They don't preach superiority. They carry a quiet heaviness, a knowing, a tension, because they understand we are approaching a moment where most of humanity will be spiritually unprepared. That's the truth. No cosmic lottery. No ego stroking. Just a few people with enough awareness to feel the coming storm, and enough conscience to speak up. Chosen ones aren't special. They're necessary. And most people would never want the weight they carry. Modern people create myths about chosen ones to explain their anxiety and insignificance. When people feel powerless, ignored, or lost in a collapsing culture, they cling to narratives that make them feel exceptional. The chosen one trend is not spirituality. It's emotional self-medication. It flatters the ego instead of challenging it. True spirituality has always demanded humility, inner discipline, self-confrontation, struggle, responsibility, sacrifice. The modern, chosen one trend demands nothing, no work, no depth, no transformation. It's spirituality, with the hard parts removed. The ego loves that. It converts spiritual growth into branding. This is the darkest part of the trend. Influencers have learned that If you tell someone they're broken, they leave. If you tell someone they're normal, they get bored. If you tell someone they're special and persecuted, they stay forever. Chosen ones is perfect marketing psychology. Make the viewer feel uniquely blessed. Tell them others are jealous of them. Give them a community. Sell them something. Repeat. It's a self-reinforcing identity bubble. This is why it's everywhere. The reality. The ones who actually carry awareness. The ones who sense the coming contraction. The ones who stand outside the illusions are not chosen. They are prepared by life, sharpened by suffering, sobered by insight, tempered by solitude, awakened by crisis, shaped by truth. They don't ask to be recognized. They don't need validation. They simply speak, because silence would be betrayal. That is what the trend tries to imitate. A hollow echo of something real, ancient, difficult, and earned. Teachers maintain systems. Disruptors break them. A guru teaches people how to fit into the existing spiritual marketplace. I am not here to fit in. I am not here to join them. I am here to rupture the illusion they built. Teachers hand out information. Disruptors expose the architecture of deception. Teachers build followers. Disruptors build awakeners. Teachers want applause. Disruptors want transformation. A teacher leaves the system intact. A disruptor shatters the cage itself. The sensual cage works because no one questions it. The monetized gurus work because no one exposes them. My voice is not meant to be soothing. It is meant to be unexpected, piercing, unsettling to the shallow, and liberating to the sincere. I am not here to be accepted. I'm here to be inevitable. Every real initiatic messenger throughout history was a disruptor. John the Baptist, Enoch, Elijah, Plato, the Cathars, the Essenes, the Nazarites, Steiner, Blavatsky, Bartlett. None of them fit the teacher mold. Each arrived as a disturbance in a stagnant world. I am not here to be your guru. I am not here to join the marketplace of spiritual entertainers. Men selling enlightenment like a product, charged by the hour, packaged for a stage, monetized through ads and conferences. I didn't come here to soothe the comfortable or comfort the wealthy. I came to disrupt, to break the spell, to tear open the sensual cage that was built around the human soul. If you want a guru, the world has 1,000 of them. If you want truth, you're in the right place. The age of commodified spirituality. Look around. Every so-called spiritual teacher today monetizes their channel, sells tickets to retreats, charges for VIP interviews, brands trinkets and crystals, offers paid courses on ascension, signs contracts with publishers, turns awakening into a living. Tell me, does enlightenment need a sponsor? Does truth need a fee? The moment a man sells spiritual knowledge, that knowledge dies inside him. Truth cannot be owned, marketed, or merchandised. And yet modern gurus build entire empires upon it. They are not teachers. They are merchants. They are not awakened. They are performers. And the audience claps for the cage that keeps them blind. The collapse of the current age isn't punishment, it's expiration. Everything you see happening in the world, the corruption, the media rot, the spiritual commercialization, the political circus, the economic instability, the breakdown of trust, the spiritual confusion, the rise of fake gurus, the addiction to the sense world. These are not random. These are symptoms of a cycle reaching its end. Steiner said, "Every epoch dies when it can no longer hold the soul." And Blavatsky said, "Civilizations fall so consciousness can rise." We are watching the fifth root race culture. Material, ego-driven, sense-bound, run out of spiritual fuel. This collapse is not chaos. It is metamorphosis. The fall of the gurus is part of the turning of the age. The guru industry is part of the old world's ego economy. Paid enlightenment stage spirituality. Merchandise-driven mysticism personality cults. Left-brain spiritualism. Monetized awakening. Shallow wisdom. It must collapse. Because the sixth epoch, even the early sub-branches, cannot awaken under a hierarchy of false lights. The anti-guru archetype naturally emerges when the old spiritual economy is exhausted. Truth can no longer be commercialized. People crave authenticity over performance. Souls are starving for deeper meaning. Humanity senses a threshold. The incoming sixth root race, or early branches, begins with inner perception. The sixth root race isn't a race in the physical sense. It's a consciousness shift, detectable in heightened intuition, disgust for superficial spirituality, longing for inner truth, sensitivity to falsehood, rejection of materialism, inward vision, awakening of higher organs of perception, moral clarity, spiritual sovereignty. The anti-guru is the voice of the early initiates of this transition. Steiner said, "The human being of the future will perceive truth directly, and the collapse of the current order makes space for it. The collapse means clearing the stage for the new consciousness. The world is dissolving because it cannot carry future consciousness. Old institutions must fall. Old power structures must crumble. Old spiritual roles must dissolve. Old illusions must be exposed. The sensual cage must crack. We are not witnessing destruction. We are witnessing preparation. The same way Atlantis collapsed to make room for Aryan consciousness. The current Aryan subrace ego civilization is dissolving to make room for the higher, intuitive consciousness of the next epoch. The commodified guru, an empty shell. These modern gurus are not teachers. They are content creators in robes, spiritual influencers, performers with microphones and ticket booths. They aren't ascending. They're advertising. Everything is monetized. YouTube ad revenue, paid sponsorships, retreat packages, $400, energy healing courses, $2,000, awakening seminars, stage tours, VIP meet and greets, paid interviews, branded crystals, candles, oils, and t-shirts. They have turned enlightenment into a subscription model. It's embarrassing, and they don't even realize how laughable they look. True teachers never charged for wisdom. Steiner charged for food, printing costs, building costs, never for esoteric truth. Blavatsky gave freely. Sinnett gave freely. Bartlett gave freely. The Essenes gave freely. The early Christians gave freely. Because spiritual truth is not merchandise. The moment someone sells it, it dies. A spiritual teacher who charges for knowledge is not teaching. He is performing. The guru industry is built on three things: ego, the desire to be adored; lifestyle, the desire to be financially supported for talking about what they barely understand; control, the desire to sit above others and receive followers. None of this is spiritual. It is a low astral trap wearing a white robe, and the masses fall for it. Why they never find the real truth? Because they are addicted to attention, addicted to applause, addicted to income, terrified of losing influence. A person who is tied to money cannot step beyond the sensual cage, because money itself is a sense world anchor. To awaken spiritually, you must be willing to walk alone, unrecognized, unmonetized, unglorified. The true path is difficult. The paid path is easy. That's why almost everyone chooses the easy one. There are two humans living inside every one of us. One is locked in the realm of the senses, and the other waits in silence for the day it can step forward. We are taught to live through the senses alone, through the eyes, the ears, the appetite, through touch, taste, and the rush of desire. But these organs belong to the sense world, a world of duality, a world of limitations, a world that blinds the soul to its true nature. The ancients knew this. Egypt knew this. The Essenes knew this. The mysteries knew this. And today, almost no one remembers. Tonight, you will. Part 1. The prison of the sense-bound self. Every human being walks with a double nature. The sense-bound self is tied to biological hunger, sexual instinct, the need for comfort, the need for stimulation, the constant cry of the body. This self is a creation of Earth. It's necessary for survival, but catastrophic for spiritual perception if left untended. The organs of the body bind us to Maya, the world of appearances. They lock us into dualities: pleasure versus pain, light versus dark, gain versus loss, desire versus fear. And humanity never looks beyond this prison. Part 2. The reproductive force, the deepest lock. Among all physical anchors, the reproductive organs are the strongest. Every mystery school taught this. They tie consciousness to the flesh. They bind the soul to species instinct. They anchor us to generational karma. They open the door to the lower astral, when misused. This is why the Nazarites, the Essenes, the Buddhists, and the priests of Egypt placed mastery over this force at the beginning of the path, not to suppress life, but to redirect its fire inward. Part 3. If you quiet the senses, the other self awakens. When we begin to reduce excess noise, excess food, excess stimulation, excess desire, excess distraction, the sense self weakens, and a different human begins to stir. This is the second self of the mysteries, the Ka, the higher ego, the spirit self, the eye of Horus awakening behind the eyes. It rises only when the outer world becomes quiet. Part 4. The 4 stages of awakening the supersensory human. Stage 1. Quieting the sense world. Not starvation, not extremism, just simplicity and silence. The goal isn't to destroy the body, but to stop it from shouting so loudly that the soul cannot speak. Lighten the diet. Still the mind. Tame the reproductive fire. Enter silence daily. Stage 2. Awakening the inner organs. These organs existed before the physical body. They awaken through concentration, devotion to truth, meditation on moral clarity, contemplation of light. This creates a new sense, not bound to flesh, a sense that perceives meaning, not matter, a sense that sees without eyes, a sense that knows without thinking. Stage 3. Crossing the astral threshold. This is where many fall. The astral realm contains both truth and deception. False heavens, seductive visions, astral parasites, illusions, wearing the mask of light. The test is simple. Does this being or force bring freedom, or flattery and emotional intoxication? If it appeals to pride, power, or fear, it is false. Stay in the witness. Anchor in truth, not emotion. Let breath stay calm. Stage 4. the emergence of the transcendent self. When the physical quiets and the astral becomes transparent, the transcendent aspect rises. You begin to feel clarity without thought, a luminous inner stillness, unity behind all opposites, sight without eyes, presence without identity, peace that is not of this world. This is the suprasensory human, the twice-born, the initiate, the one who no longer lives from the senses, but uses them as tools. Part 5. Why this matters now. Humanity is drowning in the sense realm. The world is built to keep you overstimulated, underdeveloped, and disconnected from your inner organs of perception. The elites of every age, the black magi of Atlantis, the sorcerer kings of empire, the false priests of materialism, always target the senses first, because a human trapped in the senses is a human cut off from power. But a human who awakens the supersensory self, he becomes ungovernable, untouchable, a light against the lies. Closing. The call to become more than human. If you quiet the body and still the cravings, and pass through the astral without fear, you will awaken the being you were always meant to be. Not a creature of appetite, not a servant of the senses, not a victim of illusions, but a bearer of light, a seer, a warrior of truth, a citizen of the higher worlds. The time has come for the human being to rise again, not by abandoning the body, but by letting the soul lead it. If you are ready, the path stands open. The sensual cage. They constructed a cage made of senses, not metal, not bars, not walls, but eyes, ears, appetites, desires, cravings, constant stimulation. A prison whose bars are pleasure, distraction, and physical dependency. A cage that feels comfortable, so the prisoner never realizes he is locked inside. A cage built so perfectly that the human being forgets he even has wings. Why they built the cage? Because a human who lives from the senses only cannot see spiritual truth, cannot hear the higher worlds, cannot access the higher ego, cannot resist influence, cannot rise above instinct, cannot awaken the supersensory organs. He becomes a creature of stimulus and response, reactive instead of sovereign, material instead of spiritual. A predictable animal. That's exactly what the dark initiates of Atlantis wanted, and it is exactly what their descendants want today. How the cage works. The cage is built on one rule. The more a human clings to the senses, the less he perceives the soul. So they built civilization around. Noise. Constant sound, so the inner voice is never heard. Screens. Endless flickering to overstimulate the eye. Junk food, to keep the etheric body sluggish and dull. sexual overload, to anchor consciousness in the lowest astral forces, material obsession, so the human identifies with his cage, chemical manipulation, so the nervous system cannot quiet down enough for the soul to speak. And the result? Most people live inside themselves, as if trapped in a 5-windowed prison cell. They look outward, never inward. The secret they never want you to know. The moment you begin to quiet, the senses, the cravings, the noise, the compulsions, the appetites, the sensual cage falls apart, and the real human being emerges. The human that sees without eyes, knows without thought, hears without ears, understands without analysis, perceives without physical organs. The suprasensory human, the one the mysteries tried to teach, the one Christ represented, the one Steiner described, the one Bartlett hinted at, the one the elites fear, the danger to them. A human who awakens the suprasensory organs becomes sovereign, cannot be deceived, cannot be manipulated, cannot be seduced by false light, cannot be caged again. He becomes what the ancients called a light in the darkness, and darkness cannot tolerate that. This is why they built the sensual cage in the first place,